Hey LOFT. So if you couldn't join us this past Wednesday, I wanted to go ahead and give you a recap of what we talked about. You see, we've been moving through the book of Genesis. We talked about the creation story, we talked about humanity's fall to sin, we talked about Noah's Ark, and so the next story in Genesis is one called the Tower of Babel. And the idea is this: Noah's descendants, instead of spreading out across the world like they were supposed to, decided that they were all going to stay in the same place. And just to show God who was boss, they were going to build a tower all the way up into the heavens. Now, you and I live in the age of modern science. We know that it's really just space and black holes and giant balls of gas up there, but they didn't know that. They thought that they were building a tower directly up to the sky to shake hands with God. And it was out of pride that they were doing this. They were looking to assert themselves, to prove their worth. And God saw this and wasn't okay with it. So as they're sitting there heaping up stones, building their tower, God comes down and confuses their language. He gets them speaking in different tongues, and they're confused. They don't know how to correspond with one another, and as a result, the project comes to a conclusion. Everyone is sent out across the world. We have all the different cultures of today. Now, with this story, I think the real key is the question of what is our faith built on? Because for the people at Babel, it was built on their own pride. But later on, in the New Testament, we see another group of people come together. But they're not looking to build a tower. They're looking to build a church. In Acts chapter 2, Jesus' disciples come together after he's ascended into heaven, and they're confused, and they're scared. These are people from different countries. They all speak different languages. And yet in that moment, as they submit themselves to him and seek to do his will, God enables them to communicate with one another and speak in tongues that they all understand. In the Old Testament, when we saw a group of people acting in pride, God put a stop to it. But over in the New Testament, when it was a group of people submitting themselves to him, he helped them. Just like in our own lives, when we act out of pride, when we do something arrogant, when we do anything to serve ourselves or promote ourselves, it's going to fall apart. But if we're seeking to do God's will, if we're seeking after his kingdom, he will help us along the way. On Glow-in-the-Dark Dodgeball, October 5th, and remember, please sign up for that in the loft so that we can arrange transportation. Also, the November retreat. Go ahead and keep that on your calendar. It's going to be the 8th through the 10th, and now, I know that sometimes in this life, we all get stressed out. We all feel like we're the only ones facing whatever it is we're going through, especially some of you who are like, I had no idea that there was this much homework in the world. How is this happening to me? Well, the truth is that other people have gone through your pain too. Other people have lived through this stuff before you have. And we're going to be looking at one of those characters during the November retreat, Timothy. He was young, and yet he was put in a position of great authority and leadership. He was stressed out beyond belief. People didn't respect him or understand him, and Paul had to speak words of comfort to him to get him through it. We're going to be talking more about Timothy and how sometimes we find ourselves in his shoes, November 8th through 10th. Also, see you at the poll list next Wednesday. So I would definitely encourage you, that's a chance for all of us to gather around the flagpoles at your schools and say a prayer for your school, for the administrators there, for the other students, for the teachers, that God's will be done in their lives, and that they would feel his love pursuing them at all times. Lastly, next Wednesday is going to be a little bit different. Chris actually has a friend, Lena Lavanya, who works in missions in India. The school that he went and volunteered at last January, she runs it. And so she's going to be coming and sharing a testimony. And so I would definitely encourage you, come hear her story. She'll be speaking downstairs at the usual time, but then we're going to actually steal her and go up to the loft and hear a little bit more about her story. I haven't met Lena yet, but I've heard awesome things about her, so definitely come check this out. And games team, holy days, we've got a week off next week, so we get to just sit back and enjoy hearing this awesome story. And remember, here at the Loft, we love you, we're praying for you. I hope you're praying for us as well. Peace be with you. Come in.
Hey,
I promise it's for a lesson.